Malicious compliance. The calendar was up to date, small. I am not op. Original post by you, Hella Shorty 123 in R. Malicious compliance. Trigger warnings. Workplace misogyny. Less than. Mood spoilers. Less than. And NBSP. The calendar was up to date September 24, 2023. So, I, 24F, work as a coordinator, and part of my job requires setting up a lot of meetings. I was trying to set up meetings within 2 different time zones, and the time difference was of 14 hours. Naturally, they weren't going to be easy slots. After a lot of negotiating, I was able to get 3 early morning slots of 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., and 8 a.m. I text the guy that I understand working hours start from 9 a.m. But these are the only possible slots because otherwise it is too late at the other side. I tell him that after a lot of negotiation, I have these slots, and since I need to schedule a few more meetings, I would be grateful if he could tell me his preferred one, so it is easier for him. The reason I asked the guy first because he was expected to present product functionality, and I was trying to make it easier for him. He refused to reply until the last very moment, and barely looked at my message and told me that his calendar was up to date, and just stopped responding. I was so mad. I am negotiating for you. I know your calendar is free at these slots because working hours start from 9 a.m. I wanted your ease. He refused to even see my message after that, so I was like, okay, your calendar is up to date, and I'll use it. So now he has a 6 a.m. slot for the meeting. Because he refused to check my messages and email, he didn't even see the invite until his boss had already accepted it, and the other party as well. I will not sit and watch him give his presentation at 6 a.m. Can't wait for tomorrow. I am not in the same time zone. My meeting time would be 4 p.m. Edit. Corrected grammar. And NBSP. Update. The calendar was up to date 20,230,926. The fallout. Oh boy, was it some fallout. So everyone is waiting in the meeting. My boss is here. His boss is here. The other party is here. I'm of course there. Also before the meeting I did tell my boss, not in a complaining manner, that I had issues setting up slots due to the lack of responses from our own team. I didn't name him. I was generally talking about everyone. But my boss knew. Initially, my boss was supposed to set the meeting himself, because countless members have had issues working with him. But he was out of town and I took over the task. So, he joined in almost 10 minutes late. Needless to say, my boss, the guy reports to my boss as well, since his boss reports to mine, is pissed off. Not the first time. He has been difficult to work with. He finally comes in and does his presentation. The presentation went fine, but did he look tired? Yes. Was I happily watching him present at 6 a.m.? Yes. After the meeting ends and the other party leaves, my boss asks him to stay back in, and man was my boss pissed. And I guess it was like the stick that broke the camel's back. All the occurrences of him refusing to work with people, his attitude issues, his condescending incidents were brought up. The guy did not say a word. His head kind of hung low while he listened to my boss ripping him a new one. Needless to say, I enjoyed each and every second of it. Now he is required to take mandatory HR training sessions for team communication, and I'll be setting those up too. So hopefully he'll be more vocal about what is preferable. Reminder, I am not the original poster. 6 a.m. HR training, you say? You treat the admins and coordinators like gold, as they can make your life easier or more difficult. My admin is a saint. I love this because I have been in one too many meetings where people just didn't appreciate that. Somebody in Australia was up at 4 a.m. to make a meeting time more palatable for somebody on a different continent. I work IT. I was on a big bridge call a couple years ago for an outage that had a lot of people on it. One of those people was the CTO, Chief Technology Officer, pretty much the highest tier person I would ever be expected to have a conversation with. The bridge call was for an outage and it went spectacularly bad. And by bad, I mean people on our end just mucking up. When it was finally over, the CTO chimes in and says, "I need these 5 people to stay on the line. Everyone else is to log off." I have never been so happy to have not been picked for the team. I don't know what was said, but I am pretty sure it was not pleasant. If there's a greater hell than a mandatory HR training session, I don't know what it is. I just had to do the annual sexual harassment and cybersecurity trainings at my job. It's the same hour-and-a-half long videos I've seen 3 other times. And there's a quiz at the end. So you can't just take a nap. IDK. I'm bothered that Oop was there to hear the reprimand. Guy was clearly a problem but doesn't sit right. And strains believability. That boss wouldn't have that conversation privately. Am I the only one bothered by the fact that the boss reamed the guy out with other people on the call? Because that's not cool. I also do meeting coordination at work and I get the same nonsense even though everyone's in the same time zone, same building. Luckily I don't have any obligation to go through their calendars. I'm not wasting my time digging through their wives' yoga classes or children's swimming lessons, and no one besides them expect me to. But you'd think pressing yes on a button would kill them. God, I wish I could do something like this as well. Instead, I'm caught in between the internal politics of various product and sales team members. For anyone reading, please never ever join a Chinese company. If someone in your job asks you something meant to make your life easier, answer politely and in a timely manner. That way, they'll keep making your life easier instead of, I don't know, slotting a presentation at an ungodly hour. This tickled me. I love the OOP's brand of petty. My team back then would be the 6 a.m. time slot due to us being West Coast and other offices in NYC. We compromised doing 2 meetings a month at 7 a.m. over Zoom. I always feel bad when my office would send last-minute meeting at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, since it would have been 5 p.m. at the NY office. Or the one time we had to reel in people at 4 p.m. our time and 6 p.m. NYC. The meetings were never short. You can sense the annoyance from our NYC's counterparts. It didn't help, especially when we WFH COVID years, because it's like an all access to each co-worker even after work hours. Ironically, we would have newsletters about better mental health and work-life balance, etc. Several discussions, aka more meetings, were set up to discuss how to stop too many meetings. Like Oop, we would have people who would not look at their meeting calendars, and as the coordinator, I had to personally track them down. One was so bad he ghosted 2 Zoom calls he was the host of. My boss was not amused, and hilariously, he could not get a hold of said coworker either to reprimand him. Lols. The only thing I didn't get was, I know working hours start at 9 a.m. Presumably this guy was informed that his job would occasionally require meetings earlier than 9, right? It just seemed odd to say, working hours start at 9 inches when they clearly start earlier than 9. As someone that has to book meetings between Canada and Australia, with bosses always willing to help me out, they tell me beforehand. I was cheering on the Oop for this. I've been lucky so far. But it's always so frustrating to have people just not be helpful. Where was the workplace misogyny in this story? Just because Oop was a female dealing with a male that didn't cooperate doesn't mean there was any. The boss chewed the guy out for not working well with others. If he had been cooperative, I would have suggested a time replacement in exchange for an early meeting. One of my former employers had that if the meeting had to be held way too early or later in the day, after working hours. Hardly everyone ever had issues with it because they either get off early the same day or get in late the next day to replace the hours. Now this guy. Yeah. I have no sympathy. Replying to an inquiry for a meeting is not that hard. Sure, it's annoying you have to come in early, but when you don't communicate, you're gonna make it difficult for others to work with you. The best line in this whole thing was, "And I'll be setting those up too, lol. I hope they are all scheduled at 6 a.m. Why exactly did this boss rip him a new one while others were present? That's incredibly unprofessional on his part. Yeah, this employee was clearly not doing what he should have been. But if this many incidents had accrued without him being called to account, and then he was yelled at in front of coworkers, that's definitely not a boss I'd want to work for. I dunno. I guess I'm too heavily anti-corporate to say this story made me feel vindicated. So much of it feels like a company demanding extra from an employee and reprimanding him for refusing to work outside of, as she said, work hours. Could just be me being clouded by my own experiences though. And I'll be setting those up too. So hopefully he'll be more vocal about what is preferable. He shouldn't even get an option anymore. Emo. That's a FAFO. His calendar is up to date.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.